Today's episode, we're going to talk about something that most agencies do not want us to talk about, and it's why agencies are failing you. So often, a brand will come up to us, and we'll be talking to them, and they will just hate agencies, or they've had a really bad experience.
Really bad experience.
And a founder will come in with a lot of baggage.
Yeah.
And so they just don't want to talk to an agency, or they're really skeptical, or they're extremely hesitant to kind of come in to that space.
Yeah.
We want to kind of talk through that, I think, and we want to talk about why the model's kind of not working, or why a lot of models don't work, essentially, and what to really look for when you are reaching out to an agency, and what to look for when you want to get one on board.
Yeah. And I think there's a couple of points on this, right? I think there are agencies that do some really bad things, but I also think that a lot of brands approach agencies with the wrong expectations.
If you're a brand and you want to get support with selling online, it's not easy, right?
No.
Your options are essentially hire someone internal.
Yeah.
But you don't know if that single person will have the skill sets and the ability to do what you need them to do at the right price. Or you go to some external help.
Yeah. You either do it internal or external, right?
Those are the two structures. We actively don't like to be called an agency.
We set out and said, I think this is also because we should point out we had bad experiences with agencies when we ran our own companies. And we're not going to become them.
We don't want to become them. And we have to also acknowledge there's a little bit of like conflict here, right? Because while we don't like to say we're an agency, we live in the agency world. And so we are now assessing
but
people
I think
who are in the space.
The way I would look at it, and the reason we can speak to it, is we've hired agencies. We work alongside agencies, right? And of many different types and specialities. And fundamentally, the fact that we say that we're not an agency is because I think we don't fit that common prototype. But more importantly, I don't think we fit every brand. We're not right for every brand either.
Yeah.
We have a very specialist niche that we work in. So, but let's look at it on a more general level. Why the agency model tends to fail.
Yeah, okay, let's do that. So, and I'm laughing, forgive me guys, and I'm laughing because I feel like it's kind of like to say, no, I'm an exotic dancer. I'm not a stripper. Do you know what I mean? It's like we're trying to put like a fancy name on it, but the truth is, we're
not strippers, we're just exotic dancers.
But that's not what I'm really talking about, right? We're actually talking about, and this little bit might get cut, but
almost certainly not.
But the reason why I want to kind of talk about this, it's not an idea of semantics. It is actually a difference in approach, right?
Yeah.
Because some of these agencies are almost like a revolving model, right? You kind of like, you have
Leaky Bucket, yeah.
The idea is the whole business operates because you get so many brands in, and they work on this kind of like the BD cycle, and their BD teams are quite large because they're trying to get lots of interviews.
Because they've got massive attrition, right?
Yeah, funnel things down.
What's it, like 8 months, I think is?
In the industry, 8 months is the average, right?
Of how long a brand stays with.
They start and they finish within 8 months. On average, right? That is one of the reasons why there's something, because there's like that part of the model is probably not working.
It's not that the model's not working. I think there's this disconnection between, and it could well be from the BD team's actual mistake. Is they're selling the wrong thing? It's from the brand buying the wrong thing.
Yeah.
The agency model requires, if you think about this, right?
Yeah.
For their businesses, not what they're doing for the client, what they need is something that's scalable. Yeah. In order for it to be scalable, it has to be formulaic.
Yeah, there has to be another repetition.
That means you've got a one-size-fits-all solution, right? So that means it's easy to train people, your team that come in.
Yeah.
And when clients come in, you just fit them into your process.
Yeah.
And that's the key word here. It's a process.
Yeah.
Which is not means it's not strategic.
Which works for a very limited number of brands, but not, like you said, that's not strategic, because that whole white glove approach where you take the brand, really analyze their problem, really try to understand the business and the product and their market, which takes time. It's not a fast thing.
I was going to say, I think the white glove...
And then implement the...
Yeah, so that white glove approach actually is only for a small part of the market. I think the general market agency model kind of fits because they just want someone that will come in and run things standard, not do anything special, just keep things bubbling
Just get it
along,
going.
which I actually think is a lot of companies, a lot of brands want that. There's only a handful that need something really strategic. It's if you're going for like significant increased growth or significantly increased profitability, if you want to get beyond and up to another level, launch new products.
Yeah, there's like been some stagnation, or there's a problem. There's a really clear problem or goal that you're building towards, and you need someone to help map out the path to achieving it.
You know what I like? I like you use the analogy quite often about the military, right?
Yeah.
Broad part of the military is your infantry.
Yeah.
Lots of soldiers, they're there for your general purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a really small set of team of elite.
Yeah, like your special forces.
That will go in and do very specialist
They're the
things.
operators.
They're the operators, exactly. Yeah. You can't have an army just of special forces. Yeah. It wouldn't work.
And I use this because a lot of companies will have either someone internal.
Yeah.
And they will be doing the day-to-day, and forgive me to use this kind of like unfair phrase, but like the grunt work, right? Yeah. They'll be doing that grunt work just to keep things going, get things operating along. But they may not have the capacity or the skill set. To be fair, it's often probably capacity because they're stretched. They're often someone in a marketing space or in a sales space. It's not a specialist. Or if it is an e-commerce person, it's an e-commerce person who's managing multiple things, multiple channels concurrently. So there's only so much time they can put in. Whereas you have somewhere like where we might come in, and we were just going to be very, very targeted in terms of what's the objective, where are we going towards, what are the parameters we're working within, as in rules of engagement, and then you go in.
Yeah.
And we can try and get things done.
Yeah. And we set that aside for them and just look at what you would want as your general day-to-day thing. When we're running our businesses, right? Yeah. This is the standard. What are the key things that we are expecting? I think this is really important because if you're interviewing an agency, these are the things you should be asking or expecting them to do, right? Mm. So starting with things like listing management?
Yeah. Listing management. You want your ads you want your ads designed, you want and managed, you want to have your listings optimized, all the design elements put together. There may be cases that are coming up that are just kind of like your constant listings are getting taken down, or there's issues that are in the account that you want resolved.
But these are like consistent little tweaks, right? These aren't what you're not looking for are not huge changes. You're looking for sustained growth, probably around 2-3%.
Yeah. Okay, so let's look at how a lot of the agency model, because we feel like quite in many ways the agency model is kind of broken, and part of it is because of how they're incentivized and remunerated, right? So some of them will be based on a retainer.
Yep.
And you just pay them month to month. Another one might be based on a percentage of your ad spend, which is standard in the
advertising marketing world, right? Yeah, advertising marketing world is on ad spend.
So then you pay them based on how much budget they manage, essentially.
Yeah. Basically, you're putting them on. You're paying them on input rather than output.
Yeah, and so that's the problem, right? Because their reward is spending more of your money.
Yeah.
And not looking at what's coming back into the business.
But it is pretty standard, and there are good reasons for it because it comes from the history of buying advertising in space, and that was the only real measure as to how they'd be remunerated. There is a good reason for it. Just generally, especially if you're in a growth phase, you're
going to be buying a lot of advertising and you'll be spending a lot of cash.
And so therefore you're probably, and the thing is, that's fine if you're looking just to build brand awareness, but if you're actually looking for a return on investment, then it probably, that you don't have that tie up between what you're looking as an outcome and what the agency's actually been remunerated on.
I think there's also an element of and I think where some agencies and they might often be freelancers, right? They will be based on a commission, right? But it might be so low, or you may not be large enough for them to be incentivized to actually put in the amount of work that's required to really kind of grow things. It might be just simple managed, just keep it going, ticking along, but it may not be the next level growth that you want to get to as a brand. And again, looking at the retainer element, if it's retainer only, again, you're paying them month to month, but it doesn't, your growth and your success or profitability doesn't influence their return either.
Yeah, and if you haven't got the opportunity to grow, say you're tight on cash flow, you don't have the stock to necessarily grow with it, maybe that fits with you, right?
Yeah.
I think if you've got, if that's your expectation and requirement, that kind of model fits really well.
there's one other model which I see quite a lot of, where there's you hire someone who will be based somewhere in a Western country, but then they funnel all of the work out to somewhere in a low cost space.
They've read Tim Ferriss's 4
for
Hour
our
Work
week, and it all just kind of funnel out there, and they have these armies of people who are just kind of working at it
and running a
for
process.
nothing, and running a process.
Yeah.
And then that's, again, a bit of a challenge because you're not getting that bespoke really support that you need. It might be just tick along and maintain things, but you don't get that real growth that you need. And so I think a lot of these things add to or contribute to that kind of revolving door element which we see, or that negative experience that people have. So when they come to us, or when they come to someone like us, and a lot of the calls that we end up having, they've got these scars and this baggage from previous experiences that make it a lot harder for them to trust. A little simple thing around trust.
Yeah.
So with many businesses, what you're really going to have is you're going to have this idea of the infantry, and then you're going to have maybe this external team that's going to be special forces. Now, if you're in a big enough company, which there are some, you may have some special forces, some actual real operators who you can hire to be within your business.
Yep.
But assume that's not the case. Very few businesses will have that ability, in which case you're going to reach out to an external partner. And I think one of the things that I want to try and kind of share with people who are listening in is what to kind of look for both in yourself and with this external partner when you get them in, right? Because so if you've had a bad experience with an agency, I want to use this analogy, which is kind of like if you've been on a bad date or you had a bad relationship, you're not going to give up on relationships and dating and become a nun. Now you might, and if you do, respect, well done. But if you don't, the idea is you keep going, right? And you have to kind of move past that baggage and those bad experiences with the hope, you kiss a few frogs until you find that prince. And you have to kind of think about this in the same way, where when you go in to speak to this external team, and I'm going to use external team, not necessarily agency, or a partner, right? When you're looking for this external partner, what are you looking for? What do you want to achieve? Have a really important, clear sense of that. There's been a couple of times where the brand, yes, they used AI, but they actually sent us an RFP, and they really, really clearly conveyed this is what they're looking to achieve. This is what they're looking for from their partner. And in order to succeed, you need to demonstrate the following things. And that's really helpful because that makes it really clear for the partner where they fit into the mix. Now, they may say, actually, what you're looking for isn't what we have internal ability to deliver on. So we're not the right partner for you. And that bit's really important. So really clearly convey your objectives and communicate what success looks like for them.
I've got a question that you can ask that will test exactly, and it's fair to say, the integrity of the answer, but will give you a good sense of it. I would take a product of yours, or if you don't have one that fits this make one up, propose it, but a product that has poor reviews. So it's something below 3.8, all right? So something 3.4, and ask them if it's possible for them to grow this product as it is.
And the answer should be
no. There's nothing that anyone can do. If the product has a fundamental problem, doesn't matter how much money you pump into it, unless you fundamentally fix that problem, there's no way to grow this product.
Yeah.
That's the
I mean, a place
issue.
with an integrity will say that.
Yes.
They'll tell you straight.
Straight.
I mean, I think the other thing you want to convey is get the agency, or the partner, I should say, to do an audit of your account and really understand their way of thinking and how they operate. And does that tie into what you're looking for? Because that's the next bit. Because what you really want, you want the external team to feel like an internal team. So their logic, their behavior, and how well you gel needs to be really close. Now, most companies, because of how the business operates, you may talk to someone who's in a BD role, and
rather than an actual operator.
Rather than the person who's going to be managing the account. Ask them to introduce that person to you. If you find it's like 15-year-old who's just like side hustling from their bedroom, then that's a different situation to, oh, okay, we have this person, but find out who the people are who you're going to be working with as well, because you need the whole thing to be really clear before you go in. And you do that. The other part of that is just keep in mind that it may take a few months for things to actually kind of feed through, because that philosophy, there's a momentum, there's like a learning phase. If the partner is running on a cookie cutter model, they're not going to spend time learning. They're just going to come in and start implementing, right? But you need them to understand the business. So they either do that before they come on, and when you have your onboarding, you make sure they understand the business, or they communicate to you that we're going to spend a few weeks just to make sure we understand things. This means we're going to talk to you, we're going to understand the category a bit further, what's happening in the account we want to understand better as well, maybe the ad campaigns that are going, we need to understand the logic there, and then we'll start implementing changes. So make sure that there's something like that learning phase going on as well. So you're meeting the team, you're understanding their philosophy, and there's going to be an element of learning that takes place. So that whole thing, at least 3 months for things to feed through. Right? So keep that in mind, because if it's less than that, you may be kind of doing some knee-jerk stuff. Obviously, look, if things dive off a cliff straight away, find out why. It might happen, and in which case you can kind of like pivot and have adult conversations. But at the very least, kind of keep in mind that it's going to be about 3 months, right? And then the next bit, I guess, is understanding what does success look like, and how do you judge the performance of the partner as time goes by.
And I think this is where we really get into metrics.
Metrics come into this,
right?
Metrics come into it, and movement towards that goal.
Yeah, some sort of plan.
Right? Because your goal may be to sustain, it may be to capture market share, it may be to increase profitability, it may be to get ready for an exit, it may be to migrate from vendor through to seller. There's a whole bunch of different objectives that may be taking place that
maybe
you need to
launching a product, you may be,
there may be a rebrand.
Running down stock, all of that. This is possibly
know
what
what
your
the goal
goals
is and make sure you're moving towards. Now, there'll be metrics that are important as you go along. So let's kind of run through some of these metrics just for you to kind of like keep in mind and understand. And hopefully you've conveyed this as you start, right? So you're going to be saying to them, this is what we're monitoring.
Before you start even, I think, this is crucial. And I think this is a really important point here. You have an objective. You shouldn't necessarily be telling them what your metrics are. What you should be asking them is, which of the metrics are you going to use that best judge this objective? As a business, though, this is my objective.
So we've got a list of them. Leon is going to read out the metrics.
Yes, sir. 7 questions you should ask your agency right now.
Right now? Oh, let's do it. Yeah. Okay.
What percentage of our revenue is currently organic versus paid?
Yes, because that's going to tell you roughly how well the ad performance is doing. And if you track it over time, you should see your organic improving.
If you're looking to improve profitability, this is a critical metric.
Yeah.
What is our TACoS trend over the last 6 months? Is it up or is it down? What is TACoS, guys?
TACoS is your total advertising spend divided by your total revenue. That
displayed as a percentage,
Displayed as a percentage. This number should, over time, decrease, in theory.
If you're looking to
increase profitability. Now, if you're trying to be aggressive and grow market share, this may stay static or it may even increase, but there should be a logic for any changes here.
So those are the 2 very, very key ones, but there's more here, which I'll read out all in one go. When did you last update our copy and images, listing copy and images to be precise? Do we have A+ content and brand story set up? What are our stock levels right now, and when do we need to replenish? What keywords are we ranking for organically in the top 10? What are our targets for the next 6 months, and how did you arrive at them?
So those are really good questions. Some of them, there may be logical reasons for having not done stuff. For example, optimizing, changing copy or changing images, that kind of stuff. You want to look at the logical reasons, but things like stock, all that kind of stuff should be, in fact, that should be communicated weekly on a really, really regular basis, right? So you want to have a really clear understanding of your stock positions and all that kind of stuff very regularly, because we know it's at least minimum 30 days of stock as your 0 point, right? So, but they're important questions to ask.
They are. And I think ultimately when it comes to metrics, or at any point, there's probably 3 things you should be focusing on at any one time. And it's like, if it's rare that it's going to be much more than that. If you're going to a core objective, you should be measuring. You need 3 measurable metrics or things that you're looking for. Anything more than that becomes unwieldy. Anything less than that becomes too specific and has the risk of taking you off and deviating. So our rule is generally 3.
There's a really good book on this, Measure What Matters.
Yes.
Affiliate link in the bio. Okay, so to summarize, a couple red and green flags for you to think about if you're currently with an agency or you're about to engage one, right?
Yeah.
So green flags, they are data-backed decisions, TACOS trending down, organic rank improving, and proactive communications. I'm going to add one other one, which is you generally gel and you are overall seeing things moving in the right direction towards your goals.
Yeah.
Red flags. They're chasing updates. They're not telling you about stock that needs to kind of go in.
Yeah, going out of stock is really bad.
No clear targets or movement towards the targets.
If you don't have a destination in mind, then you're just going to meander.
And the agency can't explain their decisions in a way that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
These are red flags. Now, they're not hard and fast, but they're really important parts of this. And the other thing I'd say is when you are setting up your agency partnership, try and align objectives, right? And their remuneration. So your growth or what's important to you is aligned with how they're remunerated. That's really important.
I think that's the singly most important thing here. Ultimately, a lot of agencies are set up just to grow themselves, not necessarily the brands they're working with. Yeah. You want is some sort of synergy, some symbiotic relationship where it equally works for both parties.
And I want to acknowledge again, we also run an agency. So,
not an agency.
Well, we run a partnership for brands, which is true. We're not an agency, but we run something in the same space. These are very important standards that we hold ourselves to, and we often wish some of the stuff was conveyed with brands, but also other agencies. So this was us doing that, I guess, and doing it publicly. You can hold us to account to it as well. And if you have any questions or specific questions on your agency or issues you're dealing with the agency, reach out, comment, DM, email, send a pigeon, whatever it is. We'd love to chat. One love.
Peace out. One love.